thinking in a woman, a man, and a woman use different parts of the brain to perform the same task, and the composition of a woman's brain is more complicated than a man's brain, as the slits of her brain together show a more coordinated interaction than him. And her brain uses during the thinking the white matter that has more connections between neurons. These bonds allow him to work faster compared to the man's brain. And the woman is characterized by a variety of personality, which changes quickly and surprisingly to her. In addition to her dependence on her thinking on the interlocking way that enables her to link ideas with each other, unlike the man, who thinks in a step-by-step manner. Thus, women can move between feelings and facts quite easily. Communication and social skills of women. Women may tend to take significant risks at the social level due to their strong social sensitivity and their ability to deal with social ambiguity. And this appears through their verbal abilities, deep communication with friends around them, and their participation in solving differences between others, in addition to her ability to read facial expressions and know what is behind the tone of voice, and thus being able to understand the feelings and way of thinking of others. These characteristics are usually associated with a woman's brain, which is characterized by the treatment of words in both hemispheres of the brain at the same time, unlike the brain of a man, who does so in half only the left brain. And studies have shown that the language-related brain regions work in females at a greater rate than males, while performing various linguistic tasks of pronunciation and others. Evidence has shown that women's mirror neurons increase in activity when trying to estimate what other people feel. And these cells are defined as a specific type of nerve that works when a person performs an activity, or when it monitors an activity that another person has performed. And these cells have been known to be as closely related to motor functions until evidence has been found that it is also related to areas of social cognition. And thus it helps a person to understand and simulate the intentions and mental states of others, which contributes to enhancing social interactions and a feeling of empathy. Response to stresses in a woman. The woman's brain differs from a man's brain in response to different pressures such as pain, as his sensitivity to stresses is greater than that of a man's brain. And studies have shown that the female's brain is not only limited to being more responsive to stress and anxiety even at their few levels, but it is considered it is also less able to become accustomed to high levels of tension. And it is worth noting that the brain's sensitivity to stress and anxiety may be beneficial in some cases, as it changes a person's mental state from a limited focus to a more perceptive and flexible focus. But if the period of feeling prolonged is concerned with a certain extent, then it may have many negative effects, and this explains the reasons why women are more prone to depression and PTSD, among others. The reasons that increase women's exposure to anxiety and stress more than men lie in the chemical differences between the structure of each brain, and the hormonal changes associated with reproductive events that a woman goes through during her life, as the increase in both estrogen and progesterone during pregnancy increases the risk of infection obsessive-compulsive disorder, which is characterized by recurrent disturbing thoughts, disturbing and tired motivations and obsessions. And studies indicate that women are more inclined to think about the stresses of life and the occurrence of anxiety disorders. Responding to risks for women. Both men and women face almost identical physiological responses during a feeling of fear represented in confrontation or flight. But women are distinguished by another behavioral response during this that depends on the principle of concern and friendship, which is a behavior that women take in order to protect themselves and their children, as it is related to feelings of attachment and care for her, and stimulated by the hormone oxytocin and other reproductive hormones. And women, while feeling fear, may also strengthen their social relationships that are required for them to protect themselves and get their needs. And therefore this may be the reason why women want to communicate with their friends or spend time on their children after a day-long work. The degree of risk for women. Studies indicate that women tend more towards certain things even if it is simple, versus venturing to get all or nothing. And therefore the reason behind the permanent gap between the wages of women and men at work can be predicted, because men tend to behaviors in which the proportion increases venture and risk in different areas more than women. And although women do not usually take the risk, but they tend significantly to social risks, such as expressing the difference in opinion or taste of others. Other characteristics of women's thinking. Women's thinking is distinguished by many other characteristics that were not previously mentioned, including women outperform men in their ability to remember prominent places and landmarks. Women are more anxious than men due to the center of anxiety in their brain in the frontal cortex, which is responsible for dealing with emotions, organizing memories, and thinking about things. which are more sensitive than the front cortex in a man's brain. Women tend to act in a way that avoids harming other people's feelings because they are based on their feelings and emotions when making decisions. A woman loves to feel satisfied just as she loves to make others feel good too. References. Was the article helpful? Yes. No. How do women think, and how do men think?